Good.
Awesome.
Yeah, do you have any recollection of when Twitter started their tipping thing? Not including like the Bitcoin stuff, because they've had tips for at
Yeah.
some point. I
It was
just don't.
May.
Did anyone really use those that you remember?
So I signed up to use it and my application is still pending. So in order to access the
Oh.
monetization function they added, you had to submit to apply. And so I did that and it says on my phone application pending. So
So first off, so it seems like there's two levels. Of course, we'll save some of this for the actual thing, but it seems like there's two levels. You have to get tip verified, and then you have to actually get the proper Lightning wallet that they do.
no, this was the old tipping function when they
Yeah.
were just adding monetization. So you could like sell ticketed events, you could use their spaces, all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But currently, apparently, if you go and edit your profile, like if I go into my account here and I go into my profile, I click edit on my settings. Apparently, there is meant to be a toggle there that says enable tipping. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't exist on my account. So I tried to get set up, and there's no way for me to access it. I've written to their
Yeah.
support. We'll see what they say, but it's interesting because they are only rolling it out to people over 18. So maybe
Yeah.
they just think I just look incredibly young, or they're confused by
Yeah.
the age that I added in my thing where I clearly lied about it, or I don't know what they're doing. But I'm not going to
Well,
give Twitter my real date of birth. That's crazy.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, you do not. I think you're quite. You could pass as like under the right lady. You could pass as not of legal tipping
Not
age, as they call it.
quite. Not quite. Couldn't pass quite for 18. It's all right. I'm we let's move on from talking about my age, Joelle. Let's talk about something else.
Okay. Just people said that you were a little quiet. I changed the levels, and we'll see what they say now. How about
All
now?
right.
Someone said one time, shout out one time, said she's not as loud as you, and then I added another 4 decibels, and yeah, how's about now? All of a sudden,
I
you
don't
live
know.
chatters are
We'll
not quite
see.
as live chatty. Um,
We'll see. We'll see.
but you got a good, you got more people on Odyssey than YouTube right now, which is nice. But anyway, while I'm waiting for these
Nice.
people to, answer and stuff or complain, we may just like wait until let's just roll the intro and get right into this. All right. So, hey everyone, welcome to Friday. Happy Friday, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. I mean, in the middle of the ocean, probably, but that's a different story. Um, I am joined by the wonderful and one and only, um, not old enough for Twitter tipping, Naomi Brockwell. How's it going, Naomi?
Going great. Yeah, apart from the fact that I'm wanting to be as excited about Twitter tipping as I can, but there are so many things that are just stopping me getting there, and not least of which is the fact that I can't even enable it on my phone. I tried, and the option isn't there. So
Yeah, we'll definitely get into that specifically. I already got a Odyssey hyper chat from Simon Schubert. Hi, Simon. It says, finally, my first Odyssey live stream, which I attend. Fire. Well, thank
awesome.
you. I hope we make this fire for you, indeed. We got a bunch of fun stuff to talk about, but first of all, in the infamous words of the former president, China.
China.
China FUD has struck again. First off, are you up on this very much? I'm sure that,
Oh yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
So I've heard conflicting reports. Let me also play a little dumb on this to let you have your moment to shine, because people hear my voice all the time and they don't hear you very much. Uh, how much of this I saw something about it's fake news that got published by mainstream media and that circulated around, and then I also saw stuff of like actual restrictions and stuff. First off, was there a fake news element that you could tell, and then how real is this, and like what really happened?
Well, this is 100% real. Like China has
Mm-hmm.
banned Bitcoin, but and crypto in general, but it's not new, right? So the fact that people are looking at all this and saying, "Oh, this new breaking news," I mean, they ban it like every Friday, right? We keep
Yeah.
hearing like all of these reports, and I mean, this time is a little bit more pronounced. There are consequences now. They're talking about
Mm-hmm.
criminal records. They're talking about like sending people to jail. Like there's real reinforcement of this now.
Mm-hmm.
But this is not new at all. China has not accepted cryptocurrency, not allowed crypto trading, shut down crypto mining. I mean, they're serious about this. But I think
Mm-hmm.
the best way to think about this, it was in this tweet from Dylan Leclerc, who said, "Why did China only have to ban Facebook and Google once, but has to continue to ban Bitcoin over and over again?" There might be a lesson there. And I think that's really the heart of this, that whenever you have one of these central focal points, whenever you have the Facebooks or the Googles, you can literally just throw their CEO in jail if you want, or just say, you cannot run your servers, you have to block IP addresses. But when you have a decentralized network, you can't shut
Mm-hmm.
it down. And I think that's what China's facing at the moment, because in 2017 they banned it. I mean, they banned it many, many times in different levels, but it just hasn't gone away. And that's because it's a decentralized network and it can't be shut down. So it really does speak to the uncensorability, the permissionlessness of this system. It's pretty exciting to see this, although it's kind of chilling to see governments crack down on this. Is exactly what we thought would happen, right? I think it
Yeah.
was Lena Zeicher who said, if you sell your Bitcoin because an authoritarian government doesn't like it, you don't understand Bitcoin, which is exactly, I mean, she's spot on there, because Bitcoin was created as a way to circumvent authoritarian regimes. It was a way to take our monetary system and make it distinct from anything that's controlled by government, to make it, controlled by the people rather than by a centralized federal, run bank. And so it's very interesting that we are starting to see this be cracked down on with
Mm-hmm.
increasing intensity, especially from China. China isn't the last one that's going to do this. I mean, we're going to have bans all over the globe. It's an anomaly to see countries like El Salvador embrace Bitcoin. It's an anomaly because they're dollarized, right? They don't have a
Mm-hmm.
central
Yeah.
bank. And so as soon as, US monetary policy doesn't work for them, sure, they can start looking into Bitcoin. But most governments do have central banks, and they cling so strongly onto those central banks because the ability to print money is, their bread and butter. It's how they pay for everything. It's how they devalue all of our savings and tick off all the things on their wish list, like bombing Syria or whatever else, whatever atrocity they want to do with this money. And so these governments are going to come down hard. They're going to increasingly come down hard. And China is definitely not the last time we've heard of country bans. This is going to keep going.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that it's taken China so long to do this kind of thing, because they're kind of the Chinese Communist Party is not the nicest, most pro freedom entity in the world, and
No,
yet
no.
Bitcoin has been a big part. Bitcoin and China have been inexorably tied for a long time, and then there's like they might shut down this exchange or they might regulate this. It's just taken years, and then the clamp. I wonder what it was that tipped them over, but
I
also.
think I
Yeah,
think maybe it's just the fact that, sorry to interrupt, but
no
yeah,
problem.
what tipped them over? No one's listening. They can't shut it down, and it still persists there, right? And so I think they're so used to being able to say, "This is our proclamation. Do not use this thing," and people stop using it. And then the fact that this hasn't disappeared, I think that's why they've just increasingly cracked down. There was another tweet that I thought was hilarious.
Hmm.
Someone tweeted out, so it was from Doge Toshi, said,
Yeah.
"Breaking: China super ultra mega bans Bitcoin with increased extra force." And that's kind of how
Yeah,
I
for
feel the
reals this time.
situation is right now. Like uber extra total serious this time. Like they keep
Yeah.
doing it, and it doesn't really change anything. But
It
keep
reminds me of the
I
Munchkin song and the Wizard of Oz, or, she's not only merely dead, she's really most sincerely dead. It's like this really most sincerely banned this time. Yeah, it's also interesting. So I was honestly, uh, I've been, ever since I've heard about crypto, and I looked into it. I have been extremely positive about it. Like, this is changing the world. This is amazing, all this kind of stuff. There was a couple of times where I got a little bit worried. Didn't change that, but I got a little bit worried. One of which was relatively recently with when I saw how much of the market relied on Tether. And there is still a lot of sketchy stuff about them, but I was worried that a Tether collapse would temporarily, of course not permanently, plunge like the crypto markets into the dark ages for like a year or so. And that was one worry. But the other worry thing was China. Like, how much, if you look at the hash rates and stuff in the past, almost like 85% of like all crypto hash rate was in China. And then ASIC
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing was all in China. And just everything was all in this, like, I mean, all that in the US would make me uncomfortable. But all that in a, a communist authoritarian country, not saying the U.S. is the U.S. federal government is that much better, but at least
Right.
it's still like it was like that. This, what do they call, sort of Damocles, like hanging above you or whatever the expression is. It's just like, oh no, when is China really gonna like start screwing things up? I thought they would keep mining, and I just thought that they would make all mining pools register and then start selectively censoring transactions and stuff. And it's just, what are you going to do? Just start mining at a loss in a different country because we have the uncensored pool? And like, it would have been a big problem. And just the fact that like China seemingly like graciously, bit by bit, just sort of said, no, no, freedom tech out of this country. And now I feel so much better about crypto now that it's much less China dependent.
Yeah, I mean it's a mixed situation, right? Because I want to see the Chinese get access to this too. If they're
Mm-hmm.
finding that this is helpful to them, I mean, they're literally using this to circumvent an authoritarian regime. They're using this as a way to get capital out of the country. And so I think that them not having as easy access to this as they previously did, that, I mean, that's not a good thing. We have to differentiate between the Chinese people who are running this and the Chinese party, right? So the Chinese government, obviously we don't want them to control anything, and when you have things based in China, it does make it easier to be co-opted. At the same time, it is a lot harder to co-opt Bitcoin, even if it is in your jurisdiction,
Mm-hmm.
than it is like a central company where you can literally just seize the building. Like, to seize Bitcoin, you have to seize thousands of computers, completely geographically dispersed, know where they're all located. Like, it is more difficult, but I will grant that it is possible. So I can
Mm-hmm.
understand why people felt threatened by that. I'm not sure that it's that much better that so much of it has moved to North America, because North American regulations around cryptocurrency don't look promising. It looks like UK as well, when they're talking about their central bank digital currencies yesterday and saying how they want to be able to program them so that people can only make sensible purchases, or those approved by the government. As soon as they do stuff like that, they're not going to want people to have a choice. So, what do they do to respond to that? Like, they probably shut down competition. So it's like, it's a bit of a mix. I want to see these countries continue to have access, especially if it's valuable to them. But I agree that definitely, I mean, Venezuela, they co-opted everything, right? When they cracked down on Bitcoin mining, they didn't like ban it. They just said, oh, it's completely legal, but you have to register with us and it all goes into this national pool. That's definitely one way to do it. And I would be more worried about something like that. But yeah, it's very, very interesting to see China kicking it out completely.
Yeah, and that's something that's interesting when you talk about proof of work versus proof of stake, because proof of work has some very physical consequences. And it's a very, like, the profitability of mining through proof of work is less constant, right? There's a lot of other things like cheap electricity, manufacturing, location, all that kind of stuff. Whereas like people just having coins and then having a jurisdiction, it's a lot easier to say move your staked whatever to just a country that has a better jurisdiction. But so that's another thing. I like that proof of stake, proof of service, staked whatever has a completely different kind of economic side of things than just proof of work. So that, especially if you use like a hybrid system, like a Decred or a Dash type thing, or just having both like a project proof of work or a proof of stake one in your portfolio, for example, it's just the odds of all that being under the same jurisdiction that can be shut down are just not as high.
Yeah, no, I definitely am interested as proof of stake models get experimented with more. Ethereum's heading down that path, Zcash is exploring that path. I definitely think that it makes a lot of sense. So we'll see what happens in that realm.
We also got proof of social media, which is, my favorite
Proof
one.
of social media.
Yeah. So, by the way, I have noticed that whenever I see the YouTube viewer count dropping and then the Odysee one popping up, because I always put the Odysee stream link in the YouTube stream, and so people go in the strips and just switch on over. That always warms my heart. So, yay for decentralization.
Yeah, for
Sure. Way for decentralized tech and all that kind of stuff. So, speaking of decentralized tech and decentralization and the little nuance between them, Twitter has apparently gone and enabled Bitcoin tips. So, what is your hot take on all this kind of a thing?
I mean, as I said, I've tried to set it up and it won't let me. So I am yet to verify that it is actually out there and available. I mean, I have a couple of takes on this. So for starters, it's not so, I mean, earlier today on the hash, we were chatting about this, and one of my co-hosts brought up, like, this is great. It's getting back to this peer-to-peer nature of crypto where you can just send people money and tip them for like a social media post or whatever. And I was like, whoa. On the one hand, I'm really happy that Twitter has added this, right? I love the idea that they're helping to popularize Bitcoin. That's a huge step in the right direction because they have such a huge user base of people who've never used cryptocurrency at all. So if this can be an onboarding process for them, that's awesome. But let's not delude ourselves and think that this is in any way peer-to-peer. I mean, this is all handled by a third party. There is an intermediary here. Not only is there an intermediary, but it's all KYC. They have access to your address, to your name, to your birth date, to like all your information. So this is actually the antithesis of crypto. So I'm, just because there's that element of it, it doesn't make me hate the situation, because there are a lot of very valuable third-party applications that I use. There are lots of intermediaries that I use to facilitate crypto. I don't think those are going to go away. Obviously, I love crypto because it gives you the ability to send things peer-to-peer if you want to, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So, I just am not going to delude myself into thinking that this is some sort of peer-to-peer system at all. This is a custodial, completely KYC'd, hand over all your data to a third party and they potentially take a cut, or they have the ability to, situation. And that's the reality of it. I mean, I'm going to set it up on my Twitter. I'm going to try it out. I try out maybe 15 different social media platforms where people can tip me in cryptocurrency. I like to test them all out and compare them, and this will definitely be added to my my roster of those things. And so I'll let you know when I've tried it out what I think. But it's cool that people are getting involved, and let's just kind of keep in mind what it is, like the reality of this. But very cool that Twitter is embracing cryptocurrency.
So we did get, speaking of tips, a hyper chat. Naomi can't use Twitter Bitcoin tipping because she spent less than 18 years in crypto. Winky.
I see.
That's funny. That's pretty funny. So, what's funny about this thing is it surprised me how they did it. What I thought, first off, what I think everyone thought was Twitter was going to open up a Lightning channel to every single user, which, if anyone who uses Lightning, like I do sometimes, that's hundreds of millions of Bitcoin transactions on chain, right? And that's just never going to happen. Literally years worth of stuff. So what I assumed is they would have a centralized service in Twitter that everyone would sign up for, and it would kind of do that. And it would just all be through this one centralized thing. The Twitter end of it, Twitter actually did almost nothing, I have to say, in this thing, which I guess viewing the complexity, I don't know if it's like a positive, vibe for Jack Dorsey that he decided to kind of have a hands-off approach to facilitating this. But basically the only thing that they did is they just added a little button that when you do it, it just opens a wallet. So it's a glorified paste your address in your bio. That's literally what Twitter did, and I'm not using it to take away from, because it is peer to peer in that way. The problem is they only let you paste your address equivalent to a centralized custodial service right now, but you can use any decentralized wallet or your own full node or whatever to pay those directly. So it is peer to. It's kind of like saying post your Coinbase address in there. It's just like, oh, it's peer to peer, but you need a Coinbase too. So it's a little weird, and I think they're going to, as other things use the Strike API, like you will be able to have other types of wallets in there eventually. But you know what I think is funny? Like, hopefully you don't spend too much time on TikTok, because it's a barren, desolate wasteland devoid of intellect, or whatever you want to call it. But you know, TikToker dude, I don't forget his name, but the guy, the African guy who goes, just like, I don't know if you've seen that. It's just like they take these super complicated videos of like, oh, look, you know, handcraft your own whatever, snip, 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 or whatever. Some needlessly complicated thing. And the guy just has a deadpan like face and just does something really simple, like, you know, just like, look, there you go. And so the version of that, and Sidham in a live chat says, TikTok is amazing, stop hating. Okay. I would say, okay, boomer, but I'm being the boomer here. But anyway, that's kind of what you can tip on. You can tip any cryptos on Twitter right now just as easily as a tipping function, just as peer-to-peer, if not more, without a custodial service. And here's how you do it. And I actually tried it out yesterday because I wanted to see. If you tweet out your public address, right? And of course, yeah, I see Naomi's privacy eyes just like burning behind. I'm like, oh no, but you know, who cares? Anyway, if you tweet out your private address or your like .eth domain or whatever, and you pin that message, someone can just literally go to your front page, open that, copy, put it in the wallet, and pay as easily as this tipping API thing.
Let me provide like a counterfactual to that. So when you first had internet search engines, right? These are the things that allow you to navigate the internet. So you got the Google and the Bing and the DuckDuckGo and all of that. And there was a battle when these first came around for who was going to take the reins and become the dominant player in this field. Now, the dominant like browser at the time was it I can't remember which one it was, but whichever browser this was, the one that everyone was using, they added Yahoo in the little bar up the top. Like, it's just as easy for someone to type in, you know, yahoo.com or whatever and find this thing, but the mere fact of putting their search engine just right there in the bar actually was a game changer, and so many other competitors just pulled out of the race after that happened. So I disagree that it's exactly as easy. There's a big difference between having an integrated button that says, you know, click here to monetize, and going to someone's Twitter feed and finding the thing and doing it all through that. There's a big difference. And also I mean, we've had brave tipping on Twitter for a long time, but that hasn't really taken off because, again, you've got to integrate Brave, and then sure, it's even embedded in there, like it's actually integrated into people's tweets. There's a little icon you can click and send them Brave tokens. But even then, it's sort of this, like the slightest amount of friction there. If it takes you to a different page or a different tab, like all of that really does make a big difference. So the fact that they're integrating this natively, I think actually is a huge step for Bitcoin.
Yeah, it definitely is in that it just kind of makes it more obvious. The thing is, so also as pointed out, there are tip bots on Twitter which work well. They're just, you know, well, you got to figure out how to use each one. Everyone's like trying to tip me nano and some bullshit like that. Like, I don't know how to get it out, or like, oh, how does this tip bot work? Do you have to message? Do you have to do it publicly on Twitter? And I don't want to do like boomer tweets out there. And the thing is, like, as far as Brave is the BAT token is a giant missed opportunity in my opinion. Just because, like, Brave is amazing. The BAT token, like, first off, runs on Ethereum. Oh, like that's going to go well, right, with all the congestion. But also just the fact that no one has BAT for any reason, and it's KYC. Like, you have to do KYC to get it out. And you can kind of keep it in the little ecosystem. It's just not, they introduce way too many friction points in using BAT for that to be useful. Now, as far as, like, the button itself, yes, having a button itself is a lot better than, copy and pasting the janky ass address like I was talking about. But what they could have done, instead of like, oh, the Strike API and all this mysterious stuff, and you have to do this and rolling out for only certain, all they could have had is literally have a quick little API where you plug in your extended public key. That's the public key that generates a new address every time it's called. You just put that in, and every time someone hits that, just say, it just says like open with wallet, Edge wallet, whatever else, it just opens it up and you just pick. It's literally just as easy. But because Jack is like a lightning guy, I mean, maybe he just not super educated on it, and all the maximalists say this is the only way to do it. But because of that, like, he was doing this overly complicated lightning thing when you could have just put an option for an XPub key. You just go in and tip. But like, as you said, either way, it's just the access and the simplicity of it is really going to start launching crypto as a whole forward into people's mind shares, as far as, this is money you can just send to people for no reason at all if you want.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think there'll be far more people who enable the tipping function so they can receive it, rather than people who are willing to spend their Bitcoin. I mean, the whole Bitcoin mentality is hold for forever, never spend it. I don't see why that mentality changes as soon as you add it to the second layer. Now that it's like on the Lightning, why does that suddenly make it an asset that you're willing to part with? So the whole mentality of these Bitcoiners who want to hold onto their assets forever, I just don't see that changing anytime soon. And anyone who doesn't have that mindset, generally, I mean, they're using other coins that are a lot cheaper to send and a lot easier to send anyway. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of traction this even has. But I agree with you, just like occupying the mind share of people is super important. If we think about all of the mind control that Twitter does, I don't mean to like put on a tinfoil hat right now and be like mind control, but
The
literally
globalists.
yeah, in your feed, on the right-hand side, there's literally a bunch of curated topics where Twitter is saying, look here, these are the things we want you to focus on. It's amazing how many times I go into Twitter because I'm trying to do work or research something or whatever, and I see that and I'm like, oh, Lindsay Lohan's in trouble. And I'm like, no, Naomi, you don't care about Lindsay Lohan. You've never seen any of her videos. Why would you click?
No
And then, like,
offense
5
to
minutes
Miss
later,
Lohan, by the way. I'm
yeah,
sure she's
and
a
then
fine
I
young
find
lady. I
myself
just
like
don't care.
clicking, and I'm in a rabbit hole, and then I've lost like 20 minutes, right? So they really do have the ability to kind of curate your focus for the day. So if they're also adding in a little thing that says tip in Bitcoin, I mean, that's kind of cool. Like, I
Yeah.
like that people are going to see that. If we're going to have mind control, I'm glad that they're at least using some of that for good.
Yes. And so first off, if anyone, like, because again, got my Lightning node going here and some stuff, if anyone activates that stuff and wants some free Lightning stuff, wants some sats, I can send it to them. It's because I don't have to do KYC to send it. So that part I don't care about. But it's pretty funny how we talk about like the mind control part, the mind share bit, and it's funny because I've been out. I don't watch TV. I never really have. I don't go to mainstream media sites, and the disconnect between people like me and the average person has grown vastly over the past couple of years. And so, like, every time I'm on Twitter, they're shoving all this stuff on the side. Well, according to fact checkers, blah blah blah. It's always some, and I view that as I'm okay with seeing that because I view it as the propaganda bar, because it just literally all the state propaganda just pops up there as like whatever, and then the trending, though, is hackable, because sometimes, like, Rothbard will be trending. Thanks, Jack, by the way. Sometimes you'll just have something, like, cool that trends for, like, a little bit. Like, Secession was trending, I think, the other day. And it was like, whoa, a bunch of real, good stuff like that. So, yeah, that is true. We got a hyper chat, by the way, which has Naomi been keeping up with eCash, a.k.a. Bitcoin ABC, or as people have said, imitating our buddy Amari say, "Art de monnaie," the art de monnaie. So first, have you been keep up with eCash? Second, are your thoughts about the Gary Gensler and Coinbase Armstrong with the dust up and stuff? So first,
First of all, eCash. So
it's
had
like
some people in my
Bcash. It's like Bcash, but the B is silent.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cash. I like it. Yeah, so I'm trying to. I have some people who said that they're going to be like sending me announcements when big things happen. So definitely, it's something that's like in my visual area that I'm trying to keep up with. I haven't focused on it right now. Like I'm waiting to see, like for me, I'm just a very practical person. I
Mm-hmm.
want things that I like, platforms that I can use right now. So really the currency that I use ends up being a product of whatever the platform is. So if I want to buy something on Amazon, I can use purse.io. So that's a reason for me to use the currencies offered there. Bitrefill, they offer certain currencies, so I'll use them. Dash Direct offers certain currencies. So it very much, it's like, how do I integrate this into my day-to-day life rather than let me bet on a currency and wonder which one is going to be really popular in the future. But very smart team behind it. Love the eCash team. Love Amari. So definitely interested in seeing what happens there and seeing what kind of like applications are built on top of that. In terms of the Gensler stuff, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. So I'm very sad to see Coinbase stop their lend product. Anyone who's watching who doesn't know about the dust up, basically the SEC sent what's called a Wells notice to Coinbase, which basically says this is a threat that we are going to sue you if you don't stop this product. And the lend app, I mean, their lend service was literally just like, hey, you could earn 4% interest by staking your USDC, right? And so the SECs come in and they're like, no, not 4% interest. And
How
so they're
will
like
the
threatening
banks
to sue
compete?
Coinbase. How will the banks compete? And so, yeah, I mean, so they sent this Wells notice. Coinbase, I was really proud of them for going public about this. Not many companies would do that because the SEC is a scary, scary organization that can completely kill your business. But they went public with it. They said, listen, we just don't understand. We've gotten no clarity. We've asked for feedback, like what exactly is the security that we're offering? They won't tell us. So we thought there was going to be a big battle on the horizon, but then this week, Coinbase actually turned around and said, okay, we're just going to drop the lend product. But at the same time, they also said that they're putting together like a proposal for how crypto might be better regulated. At the moment, it's basically being regulated out of existence. We've seen the SEC just go after, library, for example. Terrible what they've done there. So it's been that's a case that's been going on for 3 years, right? Where they've been
Mm-hmm.
in talks with the SEC, trying to get clarity, trying to say, hey, how do we do this legally? Meanwhile, Gensler is out there saying, all you need to do is come talk to us. Let's engage with the community. We want to have a chat with you. Come on in. Library's been trying to do that for
I
three
just want
years.
to
And
talk.
I just want to talk. And yeah, library's been trying to do that. They've got no clarity. The SEC refuses to tell them how to do it legally. So, I mean, it's just he's a liar. It's not about engagement at all. It's really about controlling this system. We have these archaic laws that the SEC has bound themselves to, and it's the laws that need to be changed. We need to figure out why we're stopping US citizens from accessing 4% interest and their
Mm-hmm.
stable coins. It's crazy that they don't have access to those products yet the rest of the world does. So and if you look at like where some of these exchanges are banned all over the world, it'll be like a bunch of really bad authoritarian dictators, and then there'll be the US in there, and you're like,
Yeah.
interesting. Like, maybe I should be getting some more information from this signaling that they're providing us by banning this. But yeah, the Gensler thing's super sad.
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned lumping the U.S. in with authoritarian states. The U.S. is a free country, possibly, probably, depending on where you are, the freest in the world, with the caveat that there's this horrendous monstrosity of the federal government that it's just like a duality of things. Like you can basically do whatever you want, but then the feds can also, do some crazy stuff. And so, yeah, it's especially with the finance and like
Oof.
war are the big things that the feds suck at. And so that's why, DeFi is important. And so what people are trying to, basically, I think that a lot of DeFi outfits are just going to be run out of other countries. And of course, that
Absolutely.
they're DeFi, they're going to be de-run, right? They're going to be run all over the place. But a lot of them are just going to be run out of other countries. Like, how many Thorchain nodes do you think are going to be based in the U.S.? I don't know. Maybe not very
Yeah.
much. But then people are just going to start. You can't. The U.S. is. I don't think the U.S. has the will. Again, the federal government has the will to ban US customers from like owning and using crypto tokens and downloading apps or APK files. Like, I don't, maybe I'm being optimistic. I don't think that they have the guts to do that. I think they just will start cracking down on these companies. And so they won't even stop what they're trying to stop. All they'll do is just push innovation and money. Like, I'm sure Coinbase pays a hell of a lot in taxes, right? It's just going to push it to other countries, and other countries are going to do well. And then the US federal government is going to lose money. Boo hoo hoo.
Well, I think that there are ways that they can ban this or throttle this without outright banning it. I mean, the history of private money is basically a history of the United States taxing it out of existence. I mean, this history that Gensler et al. Spin is a complete rewrite. It's revisionist history. They talk about this wildcat banking era and how we don't want to go back to that because it was chaos. And you talk to actual monetary historians. And like George Selgin, for example, brilliant, and he just written so many books. Like one of them sitting on my shelf up there. And he just says, no, that's completely false. The
Mm-hmm.
reason why governments came in and were able to co-opt the system, it isn't because people were grateful that the government came in and regulated it and provided a better, safer option. They literally had to tax the private competitors out of existence. That's how they
Mm-hmm.
stopped people using these things, because it's too expensive every time you use one of these private banknotes to pay an extra tax on top of that. Now, the US government is already trying that trick with Bitcoin and with other cryptocurrencies by saying, well, we as the IRS are deeming this to be property, which is completely different to how every other government
Of course.
organization is considering this or classifying this. So as property, again, it's an added tax burden every time you spend it. And so they're counting on the fact that people will just kind of be scared away and it'll be considered too much of a headache to keep track of all this stuff. And so they won't use cryptocurrency. And that's how they've already throttled it.
Mm-hmm.
Like Joelle, you're someone who lives entirely unbanked. You are
Mm-hmm.
living the crypto dream. Like, you're a trailblazer for showing people that it's possible to live on cryptocurrency. Every time I
Yeah.
bring up your story to people and all the comments to my video interview with you, it's filled with people being like, well, I couldn't possibly spend it because, the tax implications. Like, it kind of reminds me of China banning crypto, with people being like, oh, I can't use it because this authoritarian regime has banned it. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's why you have an alternative money, to circumvent the authoritarian regime, right?
Yeah.
So I think that people, first of all, if you want to pay your taxes, it's actually not a headache. I have a video walkthrough on how to pay crypto taxes if that's the route you want to go. I will also say that taxes are inherently immoral. They're used to leverage
Taxation
this
is
enormous
theft.
power of the state. Taxation is theft. It is. It's used for all kinds of atrocities, like I said at the start. Bombing Syria, for example. So if that's a system that you want to support, then go ahead. And it's definitely not a showstopper to have to pay taxes on crypto. It's actually really easy if that's the route you want to go. So the fact that people keep using this as a reason for people to stop using crypto, I just
Mm-hmm.
don't buy it. I think these people just are very comfortable with their fiat lives and their credit cards and their bank
Yeah.
accounts, and they're not
That's
interested
true.
in supporting our decentralized future.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, obviously living on, first off, the unbanked lifestyle isn't like, being like General Patton. Is more like being Anne Frank, hiding from stuff. It's not super glamorous, right? Sometimes a little sketch, but uh, in my view, yes, the what do they call it? The capital gains excuse is like when people say they can't move to New Hampshire because it's too cold. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's a little cold sometimes, but like, you put out your fine. Like, how about, it's just the most nonsense excuse. It's like people live in
Yeah.
Chicago. They're like, well, I would move to the former whatever financial center of whatever. I would totally move there if it wasn't so darn cold. It's one of the same things. Like, and that kind of goes into, I got to actually reset the chat thingy here, but
I
we
actually
had,
got a super chat on Cointree as well.
yes, it was that from Herman. The guy who
No, this is from Anonymous. It says Digital
ooh,
Cash Network podcast. Thank you, whoever
ooh.
Anonymous is.
Oh, this is a different. Let me lead because I got too many, and so it skipped over one, and you can't go back because it's not meant to be that way. Anyway,
Um,
Herman's said, uh, "Did Naomi use Dash Direct in the past weeks? If yes, is she content? If not, why not? Greetings, Herman's." She said also gave to Cointree.mbtv. So Herman's
awesome.
actually
Thank
he
you.
passed the love along. So have you used Dash Direct in the past several weeks? And if yes, did you like it? If not, why not?
I have not used it in the past several weeks. Past several weeks have been pretty hectic for me. I
Mm-hmm.
traveled to New York for a wedding. I've done a whole bunch of things that didn't include eating out and buying things. But Dash Direct is definitely right up there on my radar. I mean, I've been testing out a bunch of different platforms recently about like ways you can spend crypto in your everyday life. I've even been testing out crypto credit cards, full KYC, so it's not something that you can just like get an app and log into. Kind of seeing what's out there in terms of optionality. Dash is really right up there at the one of the top, just simply from the savings and the number of places. So I will be. I just it's just not something that I've been doing the last few
Yeah.
weeks.
So that is a fun. So regarding the capital gains type thing, the property, um, by using Dash Direct, you basically have a like a record of like you bought this much, like at this price, and so it makes stuff. I mean, Ryan Taylor tweeted this thing out and about how it makes reporting capital gains type stuff a whole lot simpler and easier,
Hmm.
just because of that whole thing. But that's a little aside thing. Let me see if let me check out this one. It gets a little cut off because whatever. But only are you guys concerned about the new digital dollar that the Fed wants to put up? And then I was wondering if I should go full crypto and live off that. If that's a good idea. And that's from Pozo. Hey Pozo, as a buddy of mine.
Hey,
Um,
Bozo.
yeah. So, are you worried about CBDCs?
So, yes and no. Yes, I am. I'm terrified of it because I think they're going to go the same route as China and the UK. I think they're going to say this is a way that we can control consumer
Mm-hmm.
behavior. This is a way that we can direct people to spending things when we want to spend it. We could, have money set to expire in someone's account if they don't send it fast enough. So, if we want to control the velocity of money, this is a very easy way for them to do that. So, if this option for control is out there, they're absolutely going to take it. So I am terrified about that. But what gives me great hope is that the government no longer has a monopoly on money. Like, if this had happened before Bitcoin and this was just like, hey, we're putting out this digital thing and we're getting rid of cash and everything's going to be centralized, I would be so terrified. But the fact that we already have decentralized currencies, we have all these alternatives. Why would people want to use the central bank digital currency? I mean, and that leads me directly into the next point. you know, yeah, sure. If you want to dive all the way into crypto, I think it's awesome. I personally am not all the way in crypto, right? I am not as hardcore as Joel. I live
Don't want to be on
vicariously
Frank
through
quite
him.
yet.
I admire him. I think it's awesome, and actually, I'm constantly learning from him about ways to live your everyday life in crypto, pay your bills, buy your groceries. He always has some awesome tips. But I do still have a bank account simply because, through my work, I'm earning money from an organization that is unable to pay in cryptocurrency. And I'm by necessity need a bank account in order to accept checks. Like, there's so many different ways that I am
Mm-hmm.
forced into using this system, but I'm doing everything I can to extricate myself. So that money is actually going straight into crypto every time it arrives. So although I do still have a bank account, although I do kind of still have that in my life, I am, more and more convinced that the future for the US dollar doesn't look great, just in terms of inflation. The future for the world, now that we've kind of taken back control of the money supply, that's really how you control society. And now that that's no longer in government hands, I think that things are going to be very interesting. So I'm not keeping money in cash, that's for sure. So like, I'm not going to encourage you to go all the way into crypto. I think it's awesome when people do that, they're fully embracing that, but you need to figure out your own risk profile. If there was a downturn in the market, if the US government did turn around and ban it and you lost a huge amount of your savings, like, are you able to continue to go on with that money in there? Maybe you could go all into cryptocurrency, but in a stable coin or something like DAI that's
Yeah.
decentralized. So a lot of things to think about there. I won't presume to know your situation or tell you what I think you should do there, but definitely, I see lots of different people increasingly go into the crypto world. It is becoming easier, and it's really exciting to see them just kind of really embrace this life of having sovereign money.
Yeah, and to my spit on that thing, should everyone do what I do? No, not yet. Not today. Maybe a couple years from now. But everyone should do stuff. And so, like, I see, like, there's just so one thing, maybe my pessimism a little bit, but like, almost everyone who talks about crypto doesn't use it. And then you have like, for the most part, like people in like the Bitcoin Cash community who like buy like couple things for like photo ops and then still don't use it. And it's no criticism to it, just like no one really does. And it just there's always those few people that I know that have regular spending habits in crypto, and you don't have to get out of your bank account to spend it once in a while. And so, what's funny is someone just posted, speaking of like the Dash Direct app, I think that's one of those like missing links of like small enough friction, high enough incentive to spend it. Because like some guy I know who I know has a bank account and stuff, he just posted like, oh, I love this app, it's awesome, and he posted like something like $140 saved or something. And so 100, that's saved, like that's not spent, that's saved. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, you just like home improvement from Lowe's and stuff. And I know someone else who's done that. And if you go to uh a dude I know, he's a pretty hilarious, great follow on Twitter, C4 Chaos, like C4 like the explosive chaos. And he's ever since he's done Dash Direct, every day or at least 5 times a week he's posting a Dash Direct video buying it. And he just did his like posted his history, and he's just like, it's like one of those CVS receipts worth of like times he spent Dash. It's incredible that like, and I'm sure he still has a bank account, right? But he's using
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And as you mentioned,
Yeah.
Purse, if you want to go through this little like loop jumping around stuff, you can save a lot of money on Amazon. You spend stuff on Amazon a whole lot. There's
Mm-hmm.
like, if you just find ways that make sense, or like if you live in an awesome place like New Hampshire, then go frequent the places that accept it, which
Yeah.
anypaymap.com really helps you get into to be able to see that. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of paramount to that. I should give a shout out to, in the live chat here, we have Bitcoin Jake 09, who is the person who made this Cointree plugin thingy that I use in OBS. So thank you very much. Is it Bitcoin Jake 09 on Cointree? Because if it is, go there. If he'll correct me in the live chat if it's something different on Cointree, but then go throw him some Cointree tips. In fact, I
Mm-hmm.
will after this thing's done.
One thing that I will say about the people who, I mean, I get lots of haters who don't want to spend their crypto, who are like, this is the dumbest thing. Why would I spend something that's worth, going to be worth 10 times as much tomorrow? It's like, well, why are you holding all your fiat if you could be holding something that's going to be worth 10 times more tomorrow? And if you are, then you're saving money. You're not losing money, right? So the whole capital gains thing, let's presume that you're completely law abiding, paying all your capital gains and all that. Are you losing money by spending your crypto, or are you saving money? First of
Mm-hmm.
all, if you buy your crypto at $10 and it goes up to $100, right? You've made a ton of money there. So if you then spend some of your money, you're spending a tiny fraction of the percentage of the coin that you originally have. So the amount you originally paid for it is a lot lower. So you're saving a ton of money just by virtue of the fact that the value
Yeah.
of the coin itself is going up. And then on top of that, like, sure, you may pay capital gains on that, like 20%, let's say, whatever. So that's 20% of your gain, not of the total value of how
Mm-hmm.
much you made. So you're still making money regardless of whether you're paying taxes or not. Then you add to that all the wonderful things that Joel mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
where you've got Purse.io, where you can save up to 33% on every Amazon purchase, where you've got Dash Direct, where you can save up to like 12% or 15% on your purchases. You could be saving a huge amount of money on top of that. So there are a whole lot of reasons for people to be spending their crypto. It's crazy to me. Like, obviously people are thinking every time I spend crypto, I have to convert it from fiat and into crypto, and there's an exchange fee and there's friction and all of that. And then I spend it. It's a hassle. Like, I agree. I wouldn't live like that. I would be putting all of my money into crypto to start off with, and you just pay whatever the one transaction fee is there, and you're still
Mm-hmm.
making a ton of money there. And the worst case scenario, the value can go down. And Joelle has lived through many a bear market to know that it hurts to see all of your value go down. He's a tried and true warrior there. But
Yeah.
even then, that means that you can actually take a loss on your capital gains, which means that
Mm-hmm.
you have a bunch of money there that you've lost from this value that you can then put against any gains you make in the future, and that can carry over indefinitely if you have too many losses that it can't all be counted in a single tax year. So actually, there are a bunch of
Yeah.
reasons why crypto makes a lot of sense to people.
Well, and the first part we said about like holding fiat, that's something that I've, especially like salty maximalist who does is you shouldn't be spending it any. Why not use a card? I like to
Yeah.
like it's not just well, why do you have fiat is what I always say, but then I like to like rub it in that they're fiat maximalists. It just and
Mm-hmm.
it really it makes them super quiet when I just say like, oh, you just love your card, don't you? Just that well, you might as well put Wells Fargo eyes instead of like, and they just like because you can't say anything. Anyway, I love it.
Yeah.
So we got this super chat here, hyper chat, whatever. Hi, this is from One Time. Hi, One Time. Hi, Joel and Naomi. Is liberty and voluntarism increasing in the world? I'm worried it seems like there's more acceptance of authoritarianism now because of the P word. I don't know if it's censored on YouTube. I don't know what YouTube censors anymore. And fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think, Naomi, real quick on that one?
So wait, read it again. Is libertarian
Is
voluntarism is increasing? I'm worried it seems there's more acceptance of authoritarian because of the P word fear. Um,
Yeah, I think we might have slightly opposite views on this, so definitely go first.
yeah, so I think that it's a mix. Um, it's sort of this cat and mouse game between freedom, privacy, and then authoritarian control on the other side. So governments, yes, are cracking down a huge amount. If you look at what's going on in Australia, it's a disaster.
Mm-hmm.
You have journalists being thrown in jail. You have activists being thrown in jail for incitement because they dare, not be in lockdown for like the 22, the 200th consecutive day. Like it's crazy what we've come to accept as a society as normal and the powers that we've granted government. Um, in America, I mean, it's not better. Authoritarianism is rife all the way through, like
Mm-hmm.
across the globe. If I'm thinking, well, where's a good place to live, it gets really difficult to find one. So that should make me disheartened. But at the same time, we have such a tremendous advancement of technology right now that I'm incredibly excited. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
politicians have quite realized that the tables have already turned. We
Yeah.
have so many decentralized technologies. Let's just start with cryptocurrency. The fact that it's now in our hands is decentralized systems that can't be shut down. I don't think governments have really wrapped their head around that yet. It's slow on the uptake as people start to understand this system and all the freedoms it entails, but it's
Mm-hmm.
coming like a steamroller. We got a taste of this with 3D printing, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
suddenly we can make things in our houses like, and no one can stop us because we literally just have these tiny little manufacturing machines that can make whatever we want. You had this big case, Defense Distributed, against the US government where they dared to publish the blueprints for their gun, and the government said you can't do that. They said we can, it's freedom of speech, and they won. Well, then the government of course went after Cody Wilson anyway and got him for something completely different, basically soliciting a prostitute, but it turns out that she'd lied about her age to get onto the
Yeah.
prostitution site, and so there's a whole bunch of
Yeah,
controversy around
he's
there.
still being dumb, but it's not.
Yeah,
You
he
shouldn't
was
go to
being dumb,
jail
but
for
it's not
just
the
being dumb.
point. Like the point is that they found a way to get him, but the principle, the freedom of speech is still there. And governments, I mean, they can keep trying to make cases out of people like Cody Wilson and throw them in jail as like, don't you dare try to cross us. This is what could happen. But the cat's out of the bag. This technology is
Absolutely.
out there. They can't throw everyone in jail for just using this stuff. And this stuff isn't illegal to use, right? We
Mm-hmm.
all have the freedom to make things at home. So there's so many decentralized technologies, decentralized autonomous organizations. The fact that Shapeshift was forced into this very uncomfortable position where they had to turn on KYC for all of their customers. Their entire business model went down the drain. They lost 90% of their their customer base. And so eventually they just said, listen, enough is enough. They decided to decentralize their entire company. They're now turning into, over the next few months, a DAO. So Shapeshift will cease to exist as a company, which means that the government can no longer target the CEO, can no longer target Shapeshift servers, can no longer target the team involved, because it's a completely decentralized project, or will be going forward. So we have all these tools up our sleeves now where governments can't use their trick of just going after the centralized focal point. And that's really exciting.
It's funny. You know that meme of like that little girl smiling at the camera while there's like a house on fire in the background?
Yeah.
The house on fire is like Coinbase and stuff like that, and the little girl smiling is Eric Voorhees. Because
Maybe,
like
yeah.
he just like, I got out of there in time. We really have to wrap it up. We got one last hyper chat thing from Jonathan, who was watching me on Ken Bozak's show earlier in the week. So hi, glad to see you pop around. He just says, if you had to hold a form of P2P cash, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, BSV, for 5 years, which one would you hold and why? Let me quickly run down my thought process on this. So first off, why not diversify? But it's not about holding and guessing. Let the market decide on its own. What I do in my personal life is I live on crypto, right? As we already know, but I spend and use these things, and I let who's willing to send these to me and where can I use them, I let that determine, I guess, the holdings. So I just like keep living on crypto, and if like all of a sudden eCash comes out of nowhere and it has some super good use case, I'm going to need some of that. And then what happens, like I don't want to decide. I want the market to decide for me. And so that should kind of decide your holdings, not like I'm going to bet on speculatively on these things. I'm just use them in your day-to-day life, see what's useful, acquire what is useful, discard what is not, and then just use them over time, and then just see what other people are using, and then just over time, eventually you'll never have to make the decision. It'll be made for you if you do that. I don't know if you have a countering take or at all, but yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. As I said before, I'm a very practical person when it comes to my crypto life. There are some things that, I'm holding because I can definitely see a potential use case of it. It's not here yet, but I can say like, well, that thing is going to be the center pin for the crypto world. Like things like ThorChain, for example, the fact that we now have, a cross-chain DEX that's truly decentralized is really, really exciting. So I think that that's going to be the next Uniswap. But in terms of like P2P cash, I completely agree with Joelle. For me, P2P cash, it's not about what I think is going to boom in that realm going forward. It's like, what am I using right now? What is available? What options are there? What's most useful? And that dictates my holdings at any given time. The great thing about crypto is that it's so fluid. It's so easy to transact between different coins. And so, as long as that fluidity and liquidity continues, as long as you still have like decentralized methods for exchanging this stuff, you don't have to keep trusting middlemen. I think that cryptos like are going to continue to exist concurrently. There doesn't need to be like a winner take all at all.
Yeah. So we got to end. So really quick, cointr.e/NBTV. Throw Naomi some money. cointr.e/BitcoinJake09. Throw him some money. And now I'm going to roll.
Jake money.
Yes. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next week. I'm rolling right into the Dash podcast. If you want to watch that, there's going to be a new YouTube video that pops up. But if you're watching on Odysee, just stay on the same link and just wait 5 or so minutes. You'll see the next one start. So thanks so much, Naomi. It's been pretty great. And yeah,
thank you, Joelle.
We'll see you guys next time.